I'm going to introduce the podcast almost a little bit, right? So just everybody that's listening, welcome to, I'm going to just call it the I'm Not Supposed to Be Here podcast, but I'm doing it with a member of the Mulligainz method. Now, for anyone listening, before you go scroll away thinking this is a big, massive advertisement for the Mulligainz method, it's not. I'm quite literally after just having a conversation with Gillian is I don't really want this to promote the podcast or promote the program. What I want this to do is to listen to somebody that's been through a weight loss journey in order to provide you as much tips and advice as I possibly can. And like, stories from people who have actually been through the program can be more useful than stories from people who are just telling you what to do all the time, or from people who have actually lost weight. So I think Gillian was the absolute perfect first person to bring on here, has absolutely smashed it, and it's become not about really weight loss anymore. And I think that that's something that absolutely everyone could take from your story and the development from where you were at the beginning, heavily focused on the scales, to now not so worried about it, but still making improvements on that regard because you're so good at focusing on everything else. But what I want to do is, everybody knows my story. Everybody knows who I am, 130 kilos, and then I end up losing weight along the way, and I'm always talking shite online. So I'm going to fire this across to you, just for everybody listening, a little bit about you. So like, maybe tell us who you are, where you're from if you want, or whatever, and then kind of where you were before you started, or what made you want to start to change.
It's funny at the moment. It's a full snow. It's been awful. So my girls are 24, 21, 18, and 10. So it's a handful. They're harder as they
Yeah.
get older than they are when they're younger, 1,000,000,000%. I am the operations manager at a manufacturing company. We make acoustic material. It's quite boring, but it's quite stressful desk job.
Yeah.
Mainly. So I don't really do much moving about during the day unless it's to go and shout at someone for doing something wrong. So messing up my production and not getting something on the right lorry or whatever, and then I go proper like speed marching down the warehouse. But other than that, I pretty sit down most of the day.
Yeah.
And then I guess so when I joined your method, I was nearly 23 stone, so heavy. I don't look it.
Yeah.
People would look at me and go, "Oh, she's never that much," but I am. And it always worried me because I'm thinking like, well, that 23 stone is going to be somewhere around the internal bits of me because I'm not like you see women and guys as well on TV programs and stuff who are 23 stone and they're like huge wobbly people. I'm not like that. I'm quite sturdy, if you like. And so that is all somewhere internally in my around my organs, I would imagine. And I don't know, I can't think of a better word than fucked. Like, I wasn't doing anything healthy. I wasn't doing anything. I was using food for coping with loads of stress at home and not exercising because I don't have the time. Like, I didn't think I had the time.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to be like all or nothing. So I'd be like, oh, we'll go to the gym, but you have to go to the gym 7 times a week. Like, why would anybody, I'm like, why would I even think that? It's stupid.
Yeah, I think that's so difficult.
When you start looking at it and you're like, oh no, I've got to because Instagram or somebody in a bikini tells me that that's what I need to do. So I'm going to go and do that. And I do it for like 3 days and be like, I'm never going back to a fucking gym. Everything hurts and I don't want to do it and I don't like it and I've got to wait for stuff and I don't know what I'm doing and I'm not doing that. And then I'm going to eat digestives to make me feel better about not going to the gym. So I was pretty much there.
Just from the start, from seeing you come in, and just for everybody that's probably listening as well, is you came in at a point where I remember the check-ins were like, I'm trying to do X, Y, Z, all this other thing. And then I remember every time I was chatting to you, I was like, all right, we just need to slow this down. We need to take this one step at a time. And once you started implementing that, you didn't really need my help anymore. And that's the thing, what most people don't realize is it's normally just one small little thing. You're normally only like one step away from that change. And for you, that really, really clicked. And I think that that's the most amazing part is it was almost just one sentence that I said to you, is like, Gillian, we don't need to do everything. We don't need to be from where we are now to absolutely perfect with our nutrition and exercise, because as you're saying here, like with kids at home, which are stressful and busy with work and stuff, like it can be hard to do absolutely everything that's expected by all these bodybuilders or bikini models and everything online that they're portraying. So I suppose, how did you deal how did you change that? How did you change that mindset in yourself to go from having to do everything or nothing to doing something and just doing something all at a time?
I think it was actually real. So up until that point, I think I'd been like, unless it's my version of perfect, if it's not perfect, it doesn't count, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then if I managed to achieve something, I'd just raise it. Well, it was too easy. Like, it's too fucking easy. I'm going to raise the bar higher. So I was always striving for this perfection that actually doesn't exist. And I
Yeah.
think the mindset for me, the massive mindset change was going, you're meant to fuck this up. Like, you're meant to get it wrong. You're meant to learn from it. You're not meant to be, there's no such thing as perfect. Because when you
Yeah.
get there, you question how you've managed to get there anyway. So
Yeah.
you just,
And like,
it was, for me, it was like just going, I'm still losing weight, even if I just count my calories. And I haven't done any exercise this week because I've been too busy and I'm sitting down. Well, maybe, you know, like, I would just do this little bit, and any little bit, like, makes a massive difference. If you add enough little bits up, it makes a massive difference. And I just think it was that I think you've said this many times, the more evidence you build in your brain about getting it, you're like making positive steps. All of
yeah.
a sudden you're like, oh, hang on a minute, I really am making positive steps, and I don't have to be exhausted doing it. I don't want to be more stressed. I'm already stressed. I don't want more stress. Like,
Yeah.
just slow down. And if you just do some teeny tiny little bits, you've cracked it. And then
Yeah.
once you're
And I
in
think,
that routine and like you're doing these teeny tiny little bits, then you can build on it. But you don't have to do it. Like, why would you start it all at once? You ain't got a clue what you're doing. Why would you go for it? Like, learn from the little bits. Learn what you like exercising. Learn what food you like. Learn the stuff that you want to do. And stop trying to, like, run before you can walk almost. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah, and I think like that's one of the things. So the next question I was just about to ask you as well as leading on to that was like you haven't got here by being perfect. You haven't got here by nailing your nutrition every week or staying on so-called track and doing everything absolutely perfectly. You've gotten here by fucking up as much as possible. And I'd often talk about this with people before they join. Like if you join and you're in this program or you're trying to achieve health and fitness and what's happening is you're not fucking things up, well then
Yeah.
you're not gonna learn from me, so there's no point joining. You may as well just go do it yourself. And it's one thing that you've done really, really well is fucking up and actually learning from it. But just to before we go into that question, the thing before it that you were talking about there about building that evidence, I often describe this like a snowball for people. Imagine you were trying to build a snowman and you started off with a tiny little snowball and you just start rolling it up and adding one thing on at a time. Eventually that snowball is going to get bigger and bigger to the point where you can just roll it down the hill and loads of things starts adding to it. But what you have to do is start building that evidence to yourself that you're well capable to make that progress, because at the beginning it's like, I suppose when you first started, it was just a lack of self-belief that you could do it because the expectations were so high, and what we had to do was just reduce expectations. You started proving to yourself that you could, and that's where the majority of, say, and I'll ask you about a couple of wins later on, but like majority of your wins have come from in your happiness, in your confidence, in your overall mood, have actually come from you just building that evidence and doing things rather than this scale number coming down. But just to go back to that failure thing,
Yeah.
if you can remember any moment in the time that we've been working together, or in the time that you've been losing weight or making progress, list a couple of things that you fucked up, maybe, or a moment that you remember that you thought you fucked everything up, and then maybe a learning from that.
I mean, it's like even really simple stuff like, I mean, I write this in my check-ins a lot. So tuna mayonnaise, right, is one of my favourite things on a jacket potato in a sandwich, salad, whatever. And every time I get the mayo and I'm like, and then I think, fuck, like there's about 5 million calories in that. Why have I just done that? But I like it. So then I'm like, oh my God, I've had this tuna sandwich and oh my God, like the mayonnaise is gonna, and it's never that bad. Like, it's never that bad. But like, as soon as I do it, I'm like, it's gone. I've broken everything with the mayo. But it's other stuff as well, like, just, I don't know, like, not, sometimes you think, oh, well, I'm going to plan to go swimming this week. And then something happens, one of the kids needs something, you need to go somewhere, something happens at work, whatever. You don't get home until 8 o'clock at night, you were meant to be home at 5, and you're like, oh, well, fuck, I've not gone swimming. So my exercise, that was my planned exercise, and I've not done it. And oh my God, I've messed it up. Like, I may as well order a pizza. Like, those kind of things. I don't know, like setting out with a plan and actually making the plan too difficult for yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah,
start with this thing,
100%.
like I was saying earlier on, I'm going to go to the gym 5 times this week. Balls for that. Like if I can go once this week, it's an amazing thing, because I
Yeah.
have got too much on. And it's not that I don't want to go. It's just that I'm busy, and I'm a mum, and I'm a manager, and I'm a wife, and I'm, you know, an auntie, and all these things. What is my priority? My priority is being me, not like fitness and health and all of those. I'm like, I'm not into this whole massive body positivity thing. Like, but you just need to not hate yourself. Do you know, if that makes sense? So it's like, when I think I've failed, I haven't failed, because the world is still turning. Like I can get up tomorrow and do it again, and I can do it better or different. Not even better, but different. And that's the thing. It's like, is the sun going to come up tomorrow? Yes. Well, what are you fucking worrying about then? That's it.
Exactly.
That's it.
Because
So
the only time you've ever realistically failed with it is when you give up, is when you're in your grave and you're dead. That's what I always say to people. When you're in your grave, you're dead, then you fail. Well, you failed. It's over. There's no point worrying anymore even then. So even when you do fail,
90.
yeah, exactly.
Going.
And I think, and looking at yourself like a human being, this is something that I really try and instill in a lot of you, is like, and for anyone listening as well, is start seeing yourself as a human being, rather than you being like, okay, even what you were saying there, okay, I'm after missing my gym session for today, and instantly the story that you probably would have recently been or previously been telling yourself was, I'm fat, I'm lazy, I can't do this, or I'm not enough, I'm not able. They're the stories that you tell yourself. Rather than what you just did there for yourself was reframe it and tell yourself that you're a human being. I'm busy, I have kids, I have things to be at. It's not that I don't want to go, and I know I should go. So what's the benefit of beating myself up? If I already know I should go and then I haven't got the chance to go, I'm beating myself up. And what's the benefit of that? It's not going to make you want to go tomorrow. It's only going to make you not want to do it tomorrow because you feel like a failure today. And I think that with you has been something that you have done unbelievably fucking well with, because you've completely changed that image of yourself, that mindset of yourself. Like we had a conversation a while ago about how you're at the position now where you're ready to finish up with the group. Like you're at this point where you're actually okay by yourself, and that you've learned nutrition, and that's the ultimate goal with absolutely everybody that comes in the doors. But with nutrition and fat loss, it's the ultimate goal overall for anybody, even if you don't have a coach, is to try and get something that you can do long term and see yourself differently. Because as I said to you, like the majority of your happiness and stuff like that, like, doesn't come from just that scale weight coming down. So what we need to do is focus on the scale weight and fitness and health and everything else adding to our lives rather than taking away from it. Because for a lot of people, they would see that scale weight and instantly, oh, I can't wear this clothes, or I can't wear this, or I can't do this because of this scale weight. Instead, what you've started to do is challenge the narratives of, I can't do this thing, and start to do them all. Like getting up and going to the gym now is something that you've started recently to try and take the steps to do. Getting up and going swimming, which previously you probably struggled with, like multiple other things. And I suppose the biggest thing for people, Gillian, I find anyways, is the starting point seems to be the hardest. So what was, because if I could bottle it up and bottle up a little pill with the thing that helped me get going, I would give it to everybody. What is that little pill that happened to be your thing to start? Because I think for a lot of people, they feel overwhelmed and so they don't start. So what was the moment that you were like, fuck, I actually need to make a change here?
Do you know what, right? So I spoke to you about this loads, and I won't go into massive detail, but I've come from a background of domestic violence. I've come from a background of not liking myself because of that. One of my daughters is quite poorly because of that, and it takes its toll, like it's exhausting. And a couple of years ago, and he won't mind me mentioning this, but obviously I won't go into loads of detail, I pretty much decided I wanted to get divorced, because I was pushing the wrong thing. Like I was in a place where I was pretty like at the top of my tree, like so stressed out with everything. And I'd get upset about having a bad day at work, and I'd come home and I'd go, oh my God, it's because I'm fat. Like, no, it isn't. It's because everything's just, sometimes things are just hard. It's not because you're fat. It'd be hard if you were a size 10. Like, stop. Why are you being horrible to yourself? And I'd said that, and I was like, and I was saying, you know, I'm not in a good place. Like, I'm mentally not in a good place. But I relayed that mentally not in a good place to, because you're fat. Like,
Yeah.
Bollocks, man. It's just stupid. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not in a good place because, well, I actually needed therapy. But
Yeah.
I was so independent and going like, no, I don't need therapy. I'm all right. Like, it's not a thing. I'm going to be okay. Like, I don't need it. I don't need anyone's help. I'm all right. And actually, that's like, no, you're not. Like,
Yeah.
you're not all right. So, but my not all right was because I'm fat, though. Do you know, like, I'm not having a
Yeah.
good time because I'm heavy. Like,
Yeah.
it's bullshit. I
Yeah.
wasn't looking after myself properly.
100% it is bullshit, and the reason we do this, right, is there's two different reasons. It's easy to blame our body for things. It's easy to
Yeah.
blame I'm fat on certain things because other things are harder to blame or harder to solve. So instantly we just go to I need to diet because I'm fat, and that'll
Yeah.
solve all these other issues when it actually doesn't. I experience the exact same thing,
Yeah.
and that's where you fall into the trap of dieting to lose weight to then put it back on because you over restrict and you binge
Absolutely.
and you just trying to kind of remove it. But the other thing is like pathways that have been walked before. So for me, the whole way through school, I was constantly bullied. I remember one specific moment was some guy was sitting down the back of the bus. He came up the whole way to the top of the bus to sit beside me on the way home. I think it was like an hour journey just to call me fat the entire way. He just was like, "You're fat, you're fat, you're fat." But then, obviously, whenever anything else went wrong in my life, I would also blame that fat thing because it always seemed to be the thing that's wrong. So I'd picture it as like a field, a big, massive field with loads of the grass all really, really high, or a hay field. I don't know if it's anywhere but Ireland, this shit, but and if you walk a path in that, you can see the path that's walked, and so you'll walk the same path again the next time, and the same path again the next time. And it's the same with a lot of things, is that we'll fall into this pathway, or as I like to call it, the story that we tell ourselves, and then we just blame fatness on all of that because it's easy done. It's been done before, and so for you, it was like the starting point seemed to be you got kind of you were looking at therapy and then struggling with things, and it got to a point where like I think this is key for people. It had to be bad enough for you to change.
Yeah.
So to a certain extent, it wasn't shit enough initially for you to be like, oh fuck, I need to do it, and
Yeah.
then you just happen to find the right way to do it this time because maybe in previous it's happened before as well.
Yeah. I think that's exactly it. I think that for me it was I needed to find a support network that
Yeah,
that works for me, which is actually for it to be really like I don't this is gonna sound stupid probably, but like a human support network instead of
yes,
just scrolling through social media or I mean the clubs that we won't mention. Like
because
I have been a member of that club so many times, going in, losing half a like, oh, I've lost a stone. Oh my God, it's amazing. Go in, put 2 stones on. What have you done? What have you
yeah,
done this week? Well, nothing. Do you know what I mean? I ain't done anything different, but
yeah,
but there's no education there. So you don't know what you've done. And then
yeah,
you're shamed in front of a room full of people, which
yeah,
makes it worse because then you leave and you're like, come out of the slimming club and go over to the shop, buy some chocolate, go home, eat it in the car as you're going home because you feel so shit about
yeah,
life because you've been shamed in front of 40 people.
yeah,
Like, why are we not giving ourselves a break?
yeah,
Like, just
and
it's stupid stuff. But like I was saying to you, I was at actual rock bottom. Like we've talked about this tons, and
yeah,
I'm quite resilient. Like I've survived some shit stuff, but when it started affecting my marriage because I was just hating myself for everything. Like
yeah,
feeling guilty about stuff that I didn't need to feel guilty about. Like it's happened, it's in the past, move on. You have to move on. You can learn from it, but you've got to let it go. And I didn't realize I was not doing that. I thought I was doing that, but I wasn't doing it.
yeah,
And then, I was like I was like going, well, if I did get divorced and I met new people, like I wouldn't even find a new boyfriend because I'm too fat. Like, what is wrong with me? Do you know that
yeah.
is stupid?
It's
Like you say, the stories that you tell yourself is just
yeah,
fucking mental. Like it's
and
mental.
it's crazy. And like that thing that's Sam Vaughan. So for anyone listening, he'd be one of my best friends and one of the
Yeah,
guys that come like remember that exercise that he did in Dublin where it was like list out all of these stories and things that you're telling yourself and write your name in there, and then he got everyone to cross out their name. So it was like I'm fat, I'm shit, I'm always doing this, I'm useless,
yeah.
and then write in your son or daughters or
You'd
most
never
meaningful
say it.
person to you.
You didn't
Is
say.
it?
I don't know. I mean, I don't say it to myself now, but I don't know why I ever did because
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. And actually, what I've realised is my problem is was that I didn't want to talk. Like I didn't want to examine what was causing me to feel miserable, if you know what I mean.
yeah,
The
yeah.
little bit of I guess the pill back to that for me was just, it's about being able to look at your situation that you're in and be like, what do I actually want? What is making me unhappy here? Yeah, I'm overweight, but that's not the thing that's making me unhappy.
Yeah.
It's because for me, I've not dealt with past stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah, and I think it's the same for a lot of people, Gillian. Just some people, it's too hard to look into that. And as I said, it's easier to then blame the other things. But
Yeah.
like you were talking there about support and how I'll call them out, Slim World or Herbalife, them fucking cunts, I fucking despise them. I'll shit on them till I die.
I've never done Herbalife. I don't want to drink my calories. Like, what's that about? Like, I want to eat them.
It makes no fucking sense. And then, so the support network that is supposedly there isn't a support network. It's a competition against each other to see who can lose the most amount of weight. And then when you're up weight, you're shamed in front of everybody else. But that was the biggest changing point in my journey, was having that support network. And the reason I set up the Mulligainz method was so that everybody else could have something like the same. Because in the group, it's like, if your weight is up, and like you're best friends with pretty much everyone in that fucking group now at this stage. You're all better friends together, and you're leaving me out at this stage. I'm like, you fucking cunts. But when you go to that group and you've gone up in weight or shit's hitting the fan, like there's loads of things that do be posted in that group that sometimes aren't even weight loss related, more so lifestyle related. And it's just because people need that support, and that support then knowing and knowing that there's someone there for when you have a shit day, or maybe if someone's on the same journey as you, it makes you feel less alone. And that's exactly what this podcast is kind of about as well, is making people feel less alone, that you're not doing this alone, and that there's other people here to support you and to give you that little nudge to be like, you're a human being. Because that's what happens every time you go into that group, or every time any of the members are really struggling, or anyone per se, just get someone to try and rationalize things and logically look at things and actually be like, do you know what, you're a normal human being. It's normal for your scale weight to go up sometimes. It's normal for you to enjoy a takeaway from time to time. Probably not the greatest thing to do it all of the time, but sometimes it does happen, and that's okay as well. And the second you get someone to start saying that's okay, and look, you're a human being, the better you get on. Because some people think, oh, if I sit here and I fat shame you, Gillian, or fat shame anyone in the group, that they're going to make more progress. No, they're going to be less confident. They're going to hate themselves more. Yeah. And so for some people, reason people believe it, and it's because some people will lose weight doing that, but the people that lose weight doing that will actually have more of a mental health impact when they do lose the weight, because they're going to hate themselves even if they do lose it. Because I've been there too. I lost all of the weight and was just trying to drop numbers on the scales, was looking at myself in the mirror and hating myself. And that's the last thing I want, because that's a harder thing to come out of than just being overweight in the first place. So I think that key thing that you mentioned there, and I think that's a big tip for everybody listening, is like, find someone, find something, find somehow, whether it be an online coach, whether it be fucking your best friend or something like that, to just be like, look, I'm really struggling with this thing, that really helps just speaking.
100%. And I think I thought admitting that I was struggling was me saying like, oh, I'm really I'm failing.
Yeah.
And actually it isn't. It's not that. Saying to someone, I could really do with some help here, takes a lot of courage, but my God, it's like, it's the best thing you can do, because all of a sudden people realize, like, I don't know, you just become human again. Like, I was so robotic in how I was doing things. Like, I'm gonna go to work and my house is tidy and my kids are sorted and well, one of them's not, but like mostly happy, and you know, this is perfect. This is a perfect situation. Like, I'm not perfect, but I'm not in that picture. You don't see, I'm holding the camera, I'm not in the photo, if you know what I mean. So you see that, like, you know, I've got a nice house and a nice car and a good job and all of those things, but I wasn't happy with me. And it's not, I'm not saying I'm magically fixed, because sometimes I can go to my wardrobe, put on a top and think, I'm not wearing that out of the house. Like, it's not gone, but I think you've said this before, and you've said this on some of your Instagram reels, and you've said this to all of us in the group. Stop looking at the bits you don't like. Like, because like, for me, you know, I'm happy with my face and I'm happy with me from behind. It's the front of it, is my stomach and stuff. But I've had 4 kids, you know, like, it's not gonna be like it was when I was 15 or whatever. So stop. But if I look at it and I'm like, oh no, like, pick up my jumper or whatever, stop looking. Like, look at something else. So
it's about that thing of almost becoming body neutral, because everyone's like, oh, how do I love my body? And I don't think that's the key. I think the key is to actually stop looking at your body for the way it looks, because that means sweet fuck all. things that we should be looking at is the things our body can do, the movements that our body can do, and the things that our body breaks through. Your body took you through fucking 4 pregnancies or 3 pregnancies. I can't even remember here.
Yeah, 4.
Yeah, 4. And so
pregnancies.
then what you're doing is hating on it for that. You're hating on it for all these little things. And then the more you look at yourself, because this is another thing about progress pictures, which is like people recommend them. Yes, they're good for when the scale weight isn't moving. There's something that you can look at. But sometimes they make people hyperfixate on, I'm only doing this to change the shape of my body and I'm only doing this for that. And it really, really kind of removes the actual important part behind it, because as you said, it started this, and most people is like, will jump on a call with me, be like, Oisín, I want to start because I want to feel a little bit better or happier myself. I'm like, okay, and then everything becomes a scale. I'm like, fuck, that's not a metric for your happiness. Like, when do you ever step on and this number is saying that you're happier and happier? It's not. When you step on it, you feel a little bit better because you've associated lighter with better, when it actually isn't better all of the time.
And the other thing is as well is, you know, when the time comes and you're in the ground, when you 100, nobody is writing on your headstone, in her 40s she was 20 stone. Like, no one's writing that. And people, if they're judging you on what you weigh, are not worth fucking having anything to do with. But I know you think that, and obviously you because you're fixating on it, you think other people are as well. But I'm not wearing a flashing neon sign that says I'm overweight. Like, I want people to judge me on whether I make them laugh, or whether I help them out of some shit that they've got into, or whether I make them, you know, whether we can go out and have a giggle together. Like, I don't
like this is a funny thing, because if you think back to it, so think back to yesterday at 3:00, where you were, who was around you, the people that were there, and I guarantee you don't remember any of these people body shapes really. You remember what the fucking cunt said to you at the tail, whether he was nice or not nice.
And I'll tell you why, like, it's a bit of a tangent for the podcast, but yesterday I decided to take one of my warehouse lads home because it was snowing, this freak snowstorm. And I got in the car, it should have taken me half an hour. It took me 3.5 hours to get back to work because I got caught in the snow. And when I got back, there was 2 lads left and they were just like, where have you been? And I was like, oh, one of them had texted me and said, can you bring some milk on the way in? I was like, you absolutely not. No. Like, and we got back and we were having such a giggle and everything. Like, it's just, it is not important. Like, obviously you want to be healthy, but it's not important how much you weigh. It's not the be all and end all.
Yeah, and I think like so many people would think that it is, and then it puts pressure on that scale number to either go up or that scale number to go down, whatever way you're kind of looking at. We remove the pressure of that scale, you're more likely to succeed because there's less pressure on it. You're like, okay, I don't really care which way that goes, but I'm going to try and take a step forward and do a little bit better. They should be the metrics. It's like, okay, am I taking off these things that I'm promising myself every single day, rather than, oh, the scale number is gone up, but I've done all these things every single day, but it doesn't matter because the scale number's gone up, so I'm a bad person instantly. But it is that thing of like, think back to like yesterday or the day before when you're in a shopping centre or somewhere, because so many people will be afraid to wear certain clothes or something going somewhere. But if you think back, you don't remember what any of these people look like, nor do you really give a fuck anyways, because the only thing you were thinking about is the shit that you had to get done today. The only thing you were thinking about when you're driving this fella 3 hours is, one, if he starts talking shit when I'm stuck in a car for 3 hours, I'm going to fucking cry. And second of all, as well, on top of that, you're probably just like, I can't wait for this fucking journey to be over and me get to this car. 100%. It's not about all the people you're looking at.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. And I just think that we need to remind ourselves that, like, I think the happiest I became whilst, I mean, I've been working with you since July, and the happiest I became was when I decided to say, I don't know what the end is for me. I don't know what the end weight is, because up until that point, I was going, well, I'm 23 stone when I joined you. I want to be 11 stone. That's what I want to be. I don't know what 11 stone looks like. I can't even imagine being that weight. But because my BMI says that's the top end of my BMI as well, I should be 11 stone. So I am not going to rest until I get to 11 stone. And I'd lose a few pounds and then I'd go back up. And then I'd lose a few and I'd go back up. And every time I went up a little bit higher. And I was like, why can't I get this? But now, because I'm not fixating on that number. I want to get strong. I want to get healthy. I want to be able to, I don't really want to run. But, you know, there's like stuff that I want to do.
Yeah.
But I could probably do that at 15 stone. I don't know what the end is, because, and all of a sudden, because that pressure's gone, it's like, well, I'm enjoying the ride now, because I'm not saying like, oh well, in a year's time I mean, it took me probably 15 years to get to this weight. Not gonna fall off in 15 days. Why am I like fucking about putting all this unnecessary stress and pressure on myself when I don't need to? Because I'll just do tiny little bits and eventually I'll get to where I want to be. I don't know where that is.
Yeah, and I think that that's super important. Like when you're looking at your journey, if you start thinking about, oh, I have to get to this X milestone, this Y milestone, first of all, it might overwhelm you with how far you have to go, because when you start thinking about is whatever you do now, you're going to have to keep up in order to pretty much maintain the results you've got. So you may as well just enjoy the things that you're achieving on a day-to-day basis, or like the things that you're doing. Like loads of things. For example, your first time in the gym, after you get that done, you're going to enjoy that moment more than you will on your 100 session in the gym. Your first ever time going out running, you're going to enjoy that more than your 100th time going out running. It was the same with any of my Instagram followers. My favorite time of hitting Instagram followers when I got 100. When I got 100, I was like, fuck, this is so cool. But then when I got 100,000, it was like, oh, I got that. Yes, it was still an achievement, but if I didn't enjoy that process of every single thing going, I'd miss the big moments of your first pull up, your first run, your first push up, first things that you're doing, first time going to the gym. Like I still remember my first time going to the gym because it was such a thing that was so difficult to do. And then when I had it done, I was like, oh fuck, I don't even know what I did in the gym. Don't really care what I did in the gym. And same for anyone going. Going is difficult because there's such an overwhelm there, and you feel like you're going into a place that's super judgmental, and people like, again, it comes back to this image you have of people, and what you said there, Gillian, about like, I had this nice car, I had this nice job, and this family picture, let's say, that everybody else would see, but you're the one holding the phone. And that relates back to my story a bit too, because I lived in Spain prior to my account taking off and everyone knowing who I was. I was living in Spain for like 8 months. I was living with an ex-girlfriend at the time, most miserable I've ever been in my entire life. Matter of fact, when I came home, I actually didn't want to live anymore. It was the point where I wanted to drive off. But everybody on Instagram would have seen I was living in Spain, working on my computer over abroad, and thinking this guy is living the best life ever. Wrong. Shittest time of my life by a long fucking mile. I've also worked with supermodels. I won't name any of them because they'll fucking kill me. I've worked with two in particular. Both of them have had the worst body image I've ever worked with someone on. Actually, the most difficult time that I've ever had trying to coach someone to help with that side of things, because the person just wanted to lose weight. But a lot of people would look at their photos, and I guarantee you've probably seen them before. Everybody listening to this podcast has 110% seen photos of these on magazines. I've seen photos of these people pop up on Instagram, thinking that, oh, this is the happiest person that has ever been around, or they're really happy with their body and they're so lucky, because so many people have the image in their head that they want to look like somebody else when they start, but they don't realize the story behind that. And only for me coaching, I remember specifically coaching those two people, and after that I was like, holy fuck, it does not matter what body you're in. You will be disappointed if you don't sort out the mindset behind it. And it's absolutely huge. Even actually a lot of body positivity people can lead into this frame as well, is because you'd see a lot of body positivity stuff online of like, I'm super happy in the body that I have, or I'm super happy with people that might be, say, 300 pounds, 400 pounds, whatever. And I was like, I don't really care about losing weight. But I've worked with those as well. I've worked with body positivity models that are out there saying that, oh, you don't want to lose weight. I've worked with actually three in particular, and those three as well at the same time had poor body image, and they're just hiding behind a screen camera putting out that message to everybody else. So that's something that I wanted to change when I came online. I was like, I'm just anymore, just being a normal cunt. I'm not trying to put out this image that I'm someone else or something else. And I think that when you start looking at these images of people of like, they have the perfect body, I want to look like them, or I want to be like this, but you don't actually realize that they're probably unhappy as well because they haven't put in the work. And so actually, Gillian, on this part of your journey, you're probably happy than 99% of people that you do see on Instagram, but you perceive them as different. This is the thing, is so many people listening to this podcast are probably a lot happier than people who are more wealthy than them, or have more cars than them, or a bigger business. And it's understanding that, and then will leave you less overwhelmed in order to make progress, because it's that constant barrage of, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I have a shit life, I can't do anything, that makes it so difficult.
I think as well, like when you were saying about earlier on about walking the path, and you keep walking that same path, you can change the fucking path. Like, and I was just thinking when you were talking there about, I've got a video of me just after I'd had my youngest. Well, not just after, she was learning to walk. And there's a video of me, and I'm obviously bigger than I want to be at that point. And I've looked back at that video so many times and thought, God, I wish I was thinner on that video, because she's giggling away and she's learning to walk, so she's toddling and she falls and she gets back up again and she falls, and we're all giggling at her and she's giggling, and it's a bit like that. So if I forget that I'm not as thin as I want to be in that video, we celebrate with babies from being tiny, like all their achievements, even though their achievements are like well, I mean, I guess it's a big deal learning to walk, but
Yeah.
like she fell over so many fucking times. Honestly, in this video, and she's falling, she back up, she falls, back up, and like every time we're like, yeah, this is amazing, and you pick them up and you set them off again, and then they fall, and you're like, yeah, you've done it, you've done one extra step. Like you never go, fucking hell, what are you doing? Like you just pick up and you celebrate everything, and I think that's another huge thing is that people in the program, people listening, people wherever they're at, whatever they're doing, celebrate the wins, even if they're really, really, really small. Even if you think that other people might think that they're insignificant, if you can call it a win, fucking celebrate it, because it just boosts everything that you think, like, and the positivity that you give yourself from celebrating those wins is huge, and it makes a massive difference.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something that Dan Morgan would have came in when he was speaking to us as well and talked about, and actually even with myself on progressing, that it's very easy to just look over these wins and these things that you've achieved. And the reason why, it's not to stand in the mirror and be like, I fucking love myself and all this other bullshit, but it's that you have evidence written down, because if you don't have it written down, it's just in your head and sometimes you forget and you'll just brush over and you'll move the goalpost. It's like, I want to lose 5 kilos, then you lose 5 kilos, you'll move the goalpost to 10. Oh, I never said 5, I always wanted to lose 10. And you'll never reward yourself for that, and that'll just constantly change. So actually writing them down, because it becomes this thing of ceilings and floors. So essentially, where you're on the floor when you first start a program, when you're first trying to start losing weight, you're on the floor. The first step might be up to the second floor, might be losing 1 kilo, and then it might be losing the second kilo. And let's say you're on the second floor after losing the second kilo, so you've gone up 2 floors. What happens is you start to be like, oh, I can't reach 3, or maybe you start failing for a couple of weeks, and so then you feel really overwhelmed because you're on the ground. You're like, fuck, I've messed this up. But realistically, you're on the ground of the roof of floor 2. You're not on the ground. You actually need to do this, because when you walk into that building, that's the ground where you start from, and you can't go any worse. You can't dig a hole and go down any further because there's fucking foundations beneath you. All you have to do is take a step, because there's always wins there. It's just looking back at things you've achieved. Even for some people in the program, a fucking win would have been downloading MyFitnessPal and typing in one food, or a fucking win might be, do you know what, Ushin, I didn't even actually want to get this. Would have been my win right back when I didn't really want to be around anymore, was getting out of my bed and having a fucking shower. I remember when I stopped smelling like shit for 1 week, I was like, okay, that's a win, thank fuck, I don't have to deal with myself anymore. But it's this, and like, I suppose for you, like, it's that ability to recognize those now, because I think previously, and maybe at the beginning a couple of times I would have spotted, is like, it was very, very hard for you to recognize wins in yourself. And sometimes we'll fall back into that trap of beating ourselves up, and it's so important to list these wins and recognize the things we have achieved.
And I think, because for me, it's that perfectionist mindset, like, but I heard this, I think it might have been on a Shane Walsh podcast, and I put this to somebody in the group as well, that like, you aren't a perfectionist. You have a perfectionist mindset. You don't rock up to passport control and they look at your passport and go, oh yeah, perfectionist, like, let you through. That's not what it is. So you can change it, and it's nice to have things how you want them to be, but looking for, I didn't think the small wins counted because they didn't seem like big enough. So for me, if I took a walk to the end of our street, round our park and back again, that wouldn't have been big enough because I'd not walked for 5 miles. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, this, it doesn't count. It doesn't count that I've done 3,000 steps walking around Morrison's. Like, it doesn't, other supermarkets are available, but like, it doesn't, it wasn't, it's like, it didn't matter, because it was not what, like, someone on, I don't know, Facebook or Instagram might have been doing, like, oh, you've got to go for this 20-mile walk this weekend, otherwise you're lazy. Stop comparing yourself to other people. First thing, like, the biggest bit of advice, everybody's, and I hate the word journey, but everyone's, it's their own. So their lives are their own, and they've all got things that they can, that somebody might have a bit more time, or they might have a home gym, or they could do a bit of weightlifting in the garage or whatever, or they can walk, they enjoy walking, so they get in 20,000 steps a day, or they work from home, so they don't have, like, I've got an hour's commute to work either side of the day, so I leave the house at 7, I get home at 7, I'm knackered. Like, my activity is not going to be a thing that I do loads of during the week, but I can't now compare myself to someone who, I don't know, maybe works is fortunate enough to say work part-time, or maybe not fortunate, maybe they're doing it around the kids or whatever, but they have different. It's that whole thing of we've all got 24 hours in a day, but it's a completely different 24 hours, right? So stop comparing yourself to other people, because it's unhealthy. Like, it makes the situation worse.
Yeah, and then what happens is you start comparing your wins. As this win isn't big enough comparison to this thing, and then you just don't recognize it as something that's significant.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get it on to, because I think this is going to be beneficial to everybody listening as well. Is maybe 2 of your favorite wins or 3 of your favorite wins, and what you did to achieve them or how to achieve them. But just before going into that, I want to touch on something that actually I'm going to speak about, I think, at IFS this year for coaches. So for any coaches that are coaching people, and this can be applied to everybody, hence why I want to put it in the podcast, and a tool that everybody can kind of take. And I was just thinking about it. So I often think, I don't know, you probably think the same now. It's like, how did I get started, or how did I start to do that? I'd love to be able to help someone do the same. And it's something that I wish I could bottle up and give to people and be like, look, this is what I did here, take this, and this will fix all your problems. But sadly, it's not like that. I often think back to how I started and how I haven't given up or with anything in life, right? And it's always thinking back to, like, the hardest moments you've been through. So, like, list out 5 of the hardest things that you've experienced in your whole entire life. Might be someone passing away, might be some other traumatic shit or whatever it might be. Write it all down. Write down how you felt in that moment. And then the thing will be to, like, are you feeling similar now? Have you felt similar? Is this a little bit less? Is this the same or whatever? And then what I want you to write after is, did you make it through it? And it's like, yeah, I did. Okay. Well, then, if I'm feeling the same as I was then, I still can make it through it. If I'm feeling like it's a little bit easier than it was back then, I can still make it through it. So if you can make it through all of these things that are so much harder than what you're experiencing now, and the reason I'm talking about this is because weight loss is one of the hardest things you're ever going to go through. One of the most difficult. You're trying to essentially starve your body, go against your body with what your body wants to do, especially around lifestyle now, where it's so catered towards, say, anti-losing weight, because everything else is so accessible. Foods are a lot higher in calories in comparison to where they were before. The environments are a lot worse. Stress is a lot higher. And I actually think that that's what the pandemic is. A lot of people talk about, the obesity pandemic or epidemic or whatever it is. It's not an obesity epidemic. It's a stress epidemic for most people. And that's what we need to change the narrative of. I think looking back at that can be so beneficial to people, is all the things you have achieved and all the things you have made it through, because it's almost looking at the negative aspect of that in a way to push you forward with the positive, being like, holy fuck, I've made it through. And another way to kind of see that, and one thing you've done very fucking well, is be the cockroach. It's like, just don't disappear. Shit hits the fan, shit starts going crazy. I can't do this, I can't do that. Just like, you're that cockroach that you just can't get rid of. If someone tries to kill you, your fucking brother comes out of the fucking wardrobe there and they start crawling around the place. It's just being that. And as mean as that sounds to call someone a cockroach, the cockroaches to get on so fucking well, and they just, because they don't give up. And it's that thing that you have to teach yourself to do, and that you have been through these things. And that's what I talk about with building up the wins as well, is like, when you achieve these things, that's increasing your self-worth, that's increasing your confidence, that's increasing this evidence that you can do this. And that's where the happiness comes from. And happiness isn't something like, people think I should experience happiness all the time. Happiness isn't something you should experience all the time. A quote that I heard years ago, and I actually have it saved on my phone, is, the pursuit of happiness is the absence of happiness. So as long as you're pursuing happiness, you're never going to be happy. And it's so important to switch that narrative. Is like, sometimes it's okay to feel like shit. Sometimes it's okay to just feel okay. You don't always have to feel happy, and losing scale weight probably isn't going to feed into that happiness anyways. But just to go back to the wins, what I want to try and do is get tangible advice for people that are listening to maybe take off 1 or 2 of the things that you have. So if I was to ask you now, Gillian, 3 of the biggest things that you're proud of achieving over the last little while, whether it be health, fitness wise or whatever, and then a tip off the back of it maybe that helped you, or one thing that helped you achieve it. Hard one.
It is hard. It's hard to pick, like, because I know I've written down in the group like 50 wins, and there's absolutely, and I found it quite easy because there's so many. But now you're asking me for just 3, I find that quite difficult. Thanks. So let's have a think. So number 1, biggest win, going to the gym, going swimming with the girls. No, in fact, let's change that. Not going to the gym, going swimming with the girls. I went to an open air swimming pool in the summer in a bikini with the kids and my husband, and I did not care, and I swam and I had a laugh, and I got massively sunburned. So let's not do that. But I had a brilliant time. My skin was out, and I was confident and happy. That is the number 1 win. It's not being in the gym. That's not a thing. The public thing is huge.
Sick. What would be a tip? Maybe someone that's struggling with body image, or maybe feels like they can't wear a swimsuit or something,
Yeah.
or go to a beach or go to a swimming pool with their kids. Maybe they're embarrassed about that, or embarrassed about the way that they look. What would be something that helped you, if you can think back?
I mean,
How?
it's that's a hard one as well, because I think
Yeah.
everyone's going to be so different. But
Yeah.
I just was like, I'll figure it out when I get there. So I'm
Yeah.
just going to take my top off and we'll see what
Yeah.
happens. But I think if people are really struggling with their body image, maybe, or they're like having some of their skin on show, for example, maybe start by, well, you don't get it all out to start with. Start with, I don't know, maybe swap from a t-shirt to a vest. Maybe roll
Yeah.
your sleeves up on your shirt, or get put some shorts on. Like, just have your legs out.
Yeah.
If you're not happy with the top half of your body, get the bottom half of your body out.
Yeah.
You don't have to. You don't have to go from, I want to be fully dressed from head to toe and I don't want anyone to see me, to bikini ready. Like, that's not. You don't have to do. No one's making you do that either. So
Yeah.
just go with what you. The tip, I suppose, is go with what you're comfortable with, but just a little bit. Make yourself a little bit uncomfortable. So just,
Yes.
just get your arms out to start with. You don't have to get your middle out. Get your arms out.
Sick advice. Unbelievable. Yes, perfect. And for some people, it's the same as what you did. It's like jumping in the deep end. But for some people, that's too
Yeah,
overwhelming.
it's too
And there's no,
overwhelming.
yeah, there's no right or wrong way. But I think what you said there is the way that I would also recommend is like, and it's the same with anything. It's the same whether you want to apply this with the gym, or whether you want to apply this with running or whatever. It's not like I have to go outside and do half an hour running or it doesn't count. It's like, okay, we can put our runners on and go for a walk first. Why do we have to run
Yeah.
first? Or going to the gym. How about instead of going to the gym for half an hour, just walk in the door, walk around and walk back out? Maybe that's your first session. For some people are better off not and just going in and staying in for a little while and leaving, but maybe just going in the door. Another good tip for people going to the gym is like ring up the hotel and literally tell them that you're nervous. People behind the counter know. And I recommend a hotel gym for the reason that they're a little bit more quieter, and hotels are a little bit more, let's say, receiving of people, because people come in and out all the time. So if you just ring them and be like, look, I'm planning on going to the gym, I'm really nervous, really anxious, they'll probably give you a free PT session as well. Most of them want you to get the membership, so what they'll do is get one of the people working behind the counter to just show you around. And I know that because I've been in that position where I was doing the exact same as well. And it's not like a PT is going to hate you because you haven't paid them. It's like the PT likes to see new people come in and challenge themselves the exact same way I do,
Yeah.
especially if they're good PT. And if they're not, they're a fucking cunt and you don't need to know them anyways, so tell them to fuck off. Essentially that. But yeah, so I think that that's a massive win. I'm going to pick on the going to the gym as well, because I think that that is a massive step, and that's a recent one too.
Yeah.
And I think for you, if we could list out what has helped you be able to go and why do you want to go?
So I enjoy weights and resistance training. I actually enjoy it. I'm quite my cardio is shot to shit. But I'm actually quite strong anyway. If I'm working like in the warehouse, I'm quite a strong person. I enjoy throwing things around.
Yeah.
I like that, and I feel empowered by being strong, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't want to be if I was writing a book or whatever, if I was the character in a story, I would be the princess who'd taken off the dress and was chasing the dragon away herself. Like, I'm not. I think like I enjoy like being stronger than the guys at work,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Like, I like that. But going into the gym, for me, at this size, was terrifying to start with, because I really, really believed that people were going to be looking at me like, why is she here? Because she's like way bigger than the people in the gym. And
Yeah.
actually what I realized when I went into the gym was there's people of all shapes and sizes in there. Some are bigger than me, some are way smaller than me, but I'm stronger than them. So, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But everyone's got as much right to be in there as each other. It's a public gym. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess advice and for doing it is just go in. And we've talked about this as well. Just go in. Like, you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to even pick up a weight. You don't have to get on a treadmill. You don't have just go and have a walk around. Go
Yeah.
see what it looks like. And the first time that I went into a gym, I mean, I'd done it when I was younger, but the first time I went into a gym like this time round is something that Sam had said. It was like, just everybody knows how a treadmill works. Go in and just walk. Like, you don't even have to do anything difficult. Just go in and just walk on a treadmill. You don't have to run. You're not trying to, like, what you're trying to do. Just go in and suss it out. So I did. I went in, I put my earphones in so I couldn't hear anyone else, or like wasn't paying any attention to anybody else. Got on the treadmill and just walked for a bit while I was not looking at people, but like looking around the room, trying to work out where things were, and just like not looking at people, but noticing, oh, well, those people are doing that machine, so that's what that is.
Yeah.
It is intimidating, and I from someone who's not into fitness, it is intimidating, and I understand why people don't want to go to them. I get it.
Yeah.
But there's loads of things like working out when the quiet times are, and going, if you can, if it suits your lifestyle, go in when it's quiet, so you're not having to queue for equipment, or like you haven't got someone waiting for you to get off the thing because they want to get on the thing because there's nobody else in there. And those kind of little tips, and talk to the staff, like they are there to help you. So go and speak to people.
I think to touch on a lot of what you said there, because there's so many important parts and so many good tips that you've given people as well.
And the reason,
no, absolutely perfect and bang on tips. And the reason, right, people are going to take more from this and you speaking than they will from some dickhead online who's just saying, oh, people don't care about the way you look or X, Y, Z, because it takes having experienced that yourself and listening to someone who's actually been there and done that and experienced the walking in there and feeling really anxious, because sometimes you'll feel, let's say, invalidated by someone saying, oh, sure, nobody's looking at you, can't do none of this, like, you can't feel like that, there's no point being anxious. Meanwhile, you just acknowledge there that, okay, it was really fucking hard for me to get in there and anxious, but you know what I did? I just tried to get on the treadmill, block other people out and walk. And just to touch on that judgment factor is because, okay, if you walk into, there's a couple of ways to look at this, and I often look at this with me looking, putting videos up online. If I ask most people, will you put a video up you talking up online? Most people would probably shit themselves and be like, fuck, not a chance. Same situation I was in. I know I post them every single day now, but I used to be at a point where I was really, really self-conscious about my teeth. One of my two teeth is kind of slightly far back than the other one, and it was something I was really, really anxious about. I know, it's so weird. But I didn't want to post videos for that fact, and I was worried about everybody judging me. And then I was like, fuck, judgment is kind of everywhere. And so if I go online and I looked up one person that I remember that was just like, he was famous, but like he seemed like the nicest guy ever. Dermot Kennedy, clicked into his comment section and people were calling him a cunt. We're like, you're a cunt, you're this, you're X, Y, Z, like loads of things. I think I read like 50 comments, and I remember sitting there in my bed because I was one of those doom scrolls where I just got a random idea. And I was kind of like, fuck, if people think he's a cunt, they're going to think I'm a massive cunt, and they're probably going to think a load of shitty things about me. And if people are calling him bald and ugly, they're probably going to be like, Ushin's tooth's fucked and this. And it's at that point when you realize no matter what you do, people are going to have an opinion. If I have straight teeth now, people are still going to take the piss out of me in some regard. People take the piss out of my hair all the time online. I don't really give a fuck. It comes down, and it's not really about not giving a fuck. It's understanding that you're going to have an opinion no matter what you do. It's the same with going to the gym. You go to the gym, some people are going to look at you in that gym and be like, you're fat and lazy. Some people going in are going to look at you as if you're fat in a gym. If you don't go to the gym, people are also going to look at you and be like, you're fat and lazy and don't go to the gym. So you can't really remove that judgment, and realize you're getting judged anyway. Well, then the decision is really yours in which way you want to be judged. And would you rather be judged as a person that is not doing things because they're so afraid of everybody else, or would you rather be judged for pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and trying? Because most people going into the gym, and I remember going into the gym for years and feeling the same way, will actually be there to support you. And a lot of these guys that you'd see that are really muscly, really built up, if you think about what they're doing, they're going into the gym to lift weights to try and improve the way they look, hence meaning that they are actually not confident in the way they look, and they're quite self-conscious. Most of the biggest guys in the gym are actually the most anxious, most nervous, can't speak to anybody, can't speak to women, can't speak to themselves, can't speak to anyone because they're so afraid and because they're so anxious. And that's why they're in there, is to try and prove that. So most of them actually have a negative body image because most of them just go for the fact of improving the way they look all of the time. And so when you get that in your head and be like, holy fuck, actually everybody in that gym is so self-conscious of themselves, so why would I be worried about getting up and going myself? But that worry is never going to go. The only way that worry goes is by doing exactly what you did, Gillian, is getting up and taking that step and taking that leap. And as heart-wrenching as it is, now you're like, fuck, I actually pushed myself out of my comfort zone. You're going to be happier at the fact that you did it.
Yeah, no, I am. And I do now acknowledge, and I didn't do this before, but I acknowledge that I am proud of myself for stuff. So before, like, I've said this a few times in this podcast already, I used to think, but you've done that, so it wasn't hard enough. Like, you've got to make it
Yeah.
harder for yourself. But now I'm like, no, it was hard, and I didn't like it, and I did it anyway. So,
Yes.
and I think, and that is, it's that whole thing of giving yourself a break. Like, why am I making it more stressful? And I can go in there, and I can be really not feeling it, and think, oh, fuck that. I'm literally doing 10 minutes, but I've been.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's no rules. There's no like fitness police that are going to get you and say, you have not been in the gym for an hour today, get back in there. Like, they're not stopping you on the way out, shepherding you back in. Like,
Yeah.
go in and have a walk about, get your steps up just walking around in there. Like,
There's some cunts out there that'd be like that. All right, Gillian, I'd say somewhere.
Get on my gym, they'll be like, get back in. Like,
be whipping you back in there.
yeah.
So I don't wanna keep you or people much longer, right? But I have two more questions because
Yeah, sure.
one of them I wrote down when you were chatting there because I think it's something that a lot of people will ask and wonder, and it's something that maybe you will have a lot more advice for people than I would. But although I'm quite a fucking busy cunt as well, 99% of the time, people think that I just sit down, I set the camera up, and that's it. But like in behind the scenes, like the check-ins take me 3 days. Then I have to record the videos, take me like per video maybe like an hour, and then I have all the stuff to go and organize in behind the scenes. So there's like a lot in it. But anyways, it's always good to get other advice. What I wanted to ask you first of all is for yourself, how do you balance being so fucking busy? Because people don't realize, like, you're an operations manager, 4 kids, have a husband as well, and you're like fucking trying to balance absolutely everything.
Yeah.
How have you done that and still achieved the fucking massive amount of weight that you've lost, the massive amount of courage that you've had to get up and go to the gym and prioritize exercise, come over to events, come and meet my fucking fat head as well. What have you done in order to achieve these things despite being so busy, or what would you recommend to someone that is like, I'm so fucking busy?
I've said this to you before. If everything is a priority, nothing is a priority. And I really stand by that you don't have. And so let's say, for example, let's say weight loss. Weight loss isn't my priority every single week. It's my overall goal, but it's not my priority every week. So it might be, if I've got something on, like I've started doing another degree. Like, what is wrong with me? So I know that, like, next week I've got a deadline for an assignment. Weight loss might not be my priority next week, and I just have to say, do you know what? I'm going to do a couple of things every day that are aligning to my overall goal, but I'm not going to beat myself up about it if I bring a bag of crisps into my office, like, because I get munchy when I'm writing, especially if I'm writing for an assignment. I get like I'm picky. I get picky at stuff. So I make sure my snacks align with my goal. But if I eat more of them than normal, like, it's the bigger picture, it's not going to kill me. Like, it's not going to destroy everything that I've worked for so far. It's not going to stop me dead in my tracks. It might slow me down a week, but in the bigger picture, does it matter? Absolutely not. So that is my thing, what I've started, and I have started doing this, just thinking, what do I want to achieve today? Or even sometimes, what do I want to achieve in just this morning or just in this hour? Let's just work on that, because you can't do everything. You can't be a mum to 4 and an ops manager and start a new course and put a wife and be in the gym and cooking the most nutritious meals all the time. You can't do it all. So delegate as well if you can. Like, honestly, right, it's a house full of adults essentially. Someone else can fucking hoover up, right? It doesn't have to be me. So why am I doing it? Like, if you can give some of your problems to other people, you're like, you need someone to wash the pots. Can your husband do it? Yeah, he can. Get it, ask him. Because if it's anything like my house, I can tell you, and when he listens to this, he's going to giggle about it. He doesn't see what I see. So, like, I can walk into the kitchen, and I'm sure there's loads of women, maybe even men as well here, listening to this, but there'll be women who go, why the fuck can you not see that all those pots need just putting in the dishwasher? And you've opened the dishwasher to see that it's full and thought, nah, fuck that, and put it on the side. Like, ask for help. Do
Yeah,
you know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
Like these things are happening in everybody's houses, and all these people are getting worked up about it because they just don't feel like they've got the time or they haven't got the energy or whatever to do it. But if you've got 10 energy points in a day, choose where you spend them, because
yeah,
it's not always going to be fitness. It's not always going to be weight loss. It's not always going to be, sometimes it's not always going to be the kids. Sometimes it's not always going to be your husband. Sometimes but you can't have everything so you can't do everything all of the time. You're only one person.
yeah,
And so my advice is, in a long-winded way, go steady on yourself. Like,
yeah,
you're just one person. So
yeah.
stop trying
So
to do
many things
everything.
in that. So many things in that. So first of all, the thing about telling, because even from you speaking, I'm like, fuck, this is such good advice for people to take it on board. And about that thing that you said is like actually saying things to people. So if you're able to delegate tasks, like you come home and the floor is dirty or something's going on, or your boss is, this is something that's come up in the group a few times. People overworking in work or being told to do extra jobs they're not getting paid for. And it's like, okay, I can either sit here in silence and say nothing, and that's the peaceful thing to do. That's what everyone says, the peaceful thing
Yeah,
to
but
do.
it's not. It's not
It's not
peaceful
at all.
because your in internal turmoil is like huge.
Yeah,
So you've got to
fucking
be at
massive.
peace with yourself as well.
Yeah. And so being peaceful in that situation is actually standing up for yourself, because being unconfident or not worthy within yourself, the option there you choose is to not say anything. To be self confident and self worthy, and then also to stand up for yourself, is to say the things that you want to say rather than holding back. Because some of us don't have that confidence. A lot of people that would struggle with their weight because they have a lower self confidence wouldn't be able to do that. So when you're delegating your task, think to yourself, okay, when I say that I'm not going to say anything here, am I going to beat myself up internally, and then eventually this is all going to come out, and again it's going to hurt the person that's there because you're eventually going to say it to them, or else what will happen is you'll self beat yourself up,
Yeah.
and then not want to do whatever you're doing anymore because you beat yourself up so much over it. I think that that's such an important part for people to realize, is that being peaceful isn't sat saying nothing. Being peaceful is actually saying what you want to say and being confident enough to say it. And that's so fucking key and so powerful, what you were talking about there.
I think it's in that as well, is you don't have to be an asshole. You don't have to be
Yeah.
rude. You don't have to be unkind. You don't have to be cruel. You can say, I mean, in my house, we all take the mick out of each other anyway, but you can just say, like, I'm really struggling with this today. Would you mind helping me with it? And people
Yeah.
want to help each other.
Yeah.
So if you, like, if I don't know, give one of the kids a job, they're on with it because they're
Yeah.
excited that I've asked them to do something.
Yeah. And I
So
think when you explain how important it is to you as well, if you explain the reason behind it, is like,
yeah,
look, guys, do you mind trying to sweep up this floor because I'm trying to lose a little bit of weight for myself, or trying to invest a little bit more time into my
yeah,
health and fitness to benefit me. Generally, people who care for you a lot will be like, yeah, fuck, actually, Gillian,
yeah,
sorry, yes, I'll make sure that I try and do that the
yeah,
next time. And sometimes they still fucking won't, but if you say it, at least you've said it, and
yeah,
then you can just say it again and remind people, because sometimes that's all it takes. And that leads back into that priority thing as well, is like, for you, some weeks aren't, weight loss isn't a priority, and so many people struggle with that because they think it should be just fat loss, fat loss, fat loss every single week. That thing you actually pointed out at the start of the podcast about calling it a fat loss journey. A fat loss journey makes it feel like that you're climbing up a mountain, and the only thing you should think about every single week is
yeah,
climb up this mountain of fat loss. But you can switch the mountain every single day if you want. So
yeah,
climb a little bit up the fat loss mountain, and then a little bit up my work mountain, and a little bit up my college mountain.
yeah,
It doesn't mean that you're fucking them off when you're not focused on it for a day. And that's so important for people, is that, like, think about birthdays, think about Christmas time, think about anything that you celebrate. The focus shouldn't be fat loss there. It should be enjoyment, and to switch your priority. Or
yeah,
if you have exams coming up in college, if you're focusing on fucking fat loss when your exams are coming up in college, you're actually making the college work harder for yourself, because you're not fueling yourself
yeah,
properly. You're not giving yourself enough carbohydrates. You're not giving yourself enough calories. Matter of fact, you do better actually gaining weight while sitting your college exam. So
yeah,
prioritize what you want, because what is, you said it perfectly. I've never heard it put that way before. If everything is a priority, then nothing is a priority. I think you might have said it to me actually once in messages or that back and forth, but I think that's so powerful for people.
yeah. Huge. It's a huge thing that I've started really trying to like live by, because
Yeah.
my biggest thing was just piling more stress onto myself, and actually it was the worst thing for me. So now it
Yeah.
is just a case of saying, actually, it weight loss ain't gonna be the thing today, or it ain't gonna be the thing this week, because there's 5 birthday parties and there's a leaving do at work and someone's fetch cake, and like, it isn't. But in the overall picture, it's not stopping me overall. It's just me going, actually, It's more important that I have a laugh with my family or my friends, or the person that's leaving work, or whatever the thing is. That's more important, because your memories, you've got to make them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, you
so
can't.
true.
There's so much more to life than
just calories and
losing
fat
weight.
loss.
Like,
Exactly. But so many people get caught up in it. It's so hard to get stuck. But it's because of diet culture, because of these magazines. When you're younger, probably seen people with like loose skin, or even people who are waiting. Look, this person's put 22 pounds on, or 10 pounds. I remember you see them all the time, and it brings all your focus that's the only thing that's important in life, when it's not, and there's so many different aspects to it. But I suppose, to finish up, one thing I want, or two things I want to hear off you. First of all, is main thing is, what do you want to achieve? I nearly forgot there. I have it written down here. This is why, if people keep seeing me looking down to the bottom right, it's because I have little questions I wanted to ask you. Yeah, because I was like, fuck, I'll get lost. And yeah, so thing you want to achieve going forward, the next step for you, because everybody I think should try and look at what's the next thing I want to take off, or what's the next goal I'm working towards. What is your next step, Gillian?
Fitness related, or weight related, or just anything in life related?
Go, if you have two that come to mind. One fitness related, which might be beneficial to people listening that might have a similar goal, and if you want to throw in the other one, 100% as well.
I want to. Let's have a think. So, I want to. Don't laugh at me.
It's a hard. No. I was going to say. Yeah, I was going to say, most people are afraid to say things because they're like, oh, that's too big, I want to achieve it. Fuck it out there, you'll get it.
Yeah, I want to learn to play the piano.
Sick.
That is my next thing. I'm going to buy a keyboard, and I'm going to practice.
Fucking tough as well. My mom has like the African drum downstairs.
We're quite musical household. Like, my husband is a drummer and he plays guitars, and the musical instruments everywhere. But I love the piano. And I would really love to do it, and I don't think I've got the dexterity in my hands to do it, but I'm going to give it a go, and it's going to be awful, but that's the thing that I want to do. And I keep writing that in my goal setting thing, so that's it's out there. Fitness wise, I don't know. I can't think of. I want to keep going like I am. I don't want to lose momentum, but I don't think. Do you know, like, some people might have like, oh, I want to do a half marathon, or even I want to do a park run. Or I don't have a thing where I think I haven't got a personal best, because I haven't got a personal worst yet, really. Like, I'm still learning it. Like, I don't know, but it's, I think, not lose momentum now.
Yeah,
so I think for you, just enjoying it.
Yeah, I think for you as well, recently, because you've ticked off such a big goal, you kind of almost have to sit down and be like, what is the next achievement fitness wise? And as you said, like, the next, by the sounds of things, as well as keep momentum, it's like, okay, you just mentioned there that you don't have a personal worst, you want to get a personal best. And that's the next thing to look into, is like, okay, start lifting heavier weights, or start looking at this. And a lot of women listening might be like, oh, fuck, why do you want to lift heavier weights? You're only going to get bulky. You're not. And second of all, one of the major reasons that people struggle, or women struggle, when they get to perimenopause and menopause, is because they've lost so much of their muscle mass from not weight training and just serial dieting for so many years in a row. And so when they get to menopause, then insulin resistance is a lot higher. And on top of that, they have lower energy, lower metabolism. It becomes harder to lose weight. And that's why it's so important to get into that. So for health reasons, and you need to be trying to lift heavier or progress every single time. So it doesn't matter where you started. It's like, okay, let's try build up to a fucking barbell squat, and that's a good one. So coming out in the method soon enough, I'll let this drop and see how many people know that are in the program actually listen to this. I have a strength coach writing up programs to bring us from a just body weight squat the whole way to squatting with the barbell, and then I have them doing one where you're just literally nothing, starting with nothing, to building up the whole way to a barbell deadlift, and actually increasing your strength over 100 kilos with the barbell deadlift. A lot of people are like, oh, that's not achievable. I think, like, how many people in the group have ticked off 100 kilo deadlift? Like, Joe will be next on here as well. Yeah, Joe is fucking absolutely nailed that. Rachel,
I'm chasing her. That's the thing that I'm doing. I'm like, that shit, I'm coming for you, Joe.
Yeah, it's sick. This is the thing, though, as well, about being in that group. And I know I said I don't want this to promote the group, but there's so many things that, like, lead into why I started this, and like what I wanted that group to become. It's like you're all inspiring each other, rather than you all seeing each other as like, oh, comparison, she's doing this, she's doing that. It's like, first of all, Joe hit the 100 kilo deadlift, and then Rachel was like, I want to try hit it. Then Rachel started it, and then other people start bringing it up as well and
Yeah.
trying to get their deadlift going. And then the running is like, I went and ran a marathon. Then everyone was like, I want to fucking run a marathon. And then you started the gym, you put up the thing, and I guarantee within the next 2 weeks, people are going to be like, I'm starting a gym, I've gone. And it's this thing of inspiring each other rather than seeing it as negative, because even for you to put those wins in at the beginning would have probably been like, oh no, I'm not putting that up because that's bragging or whatever. But when you start to see about how you're inspiring the people around you, that's where it becomes amazing to actually share your wins with a supportive group of people that are all aiming for the same thing.
100%. And I am, obviously, I know we've said about like not promoting the group massively, but I cannot tell you what the last 6 months, how life-changing it's been. Like, I cannot tell you enough, because just trusting to give myself enough of a break to enjoy the journey. I hate that word, but like to enjoy the process, if you like, is just, it's been huge. It's been absolutely massive, and I wouldn't have done it. Maybe I'd have done it at some point in the future, but I don't know. I wouldn't have done it like I have if I hadn't have been in the group. I mean, you're great, but the group is incredible.
The group is the best part. I'm not afraid to admit that as well. Mulligainz method, without that group, right, it would be fucking nothing. Last question. So it's a thing that I want to just throw in at the end of every podcast. Gillian, how much weight are you down in total?
Well, I'm having a little up and down at the minute, but it's about 7 kilos.
Okay. And so if you were to add the weight that you've lost off your body or the weight that you've lost overall off mental health, whether it be your movement, which is the heavier weight that you've lost?
Oh God, the mental health weight is like, I am a size 10.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the thing I want to highlight to people, is like that number means sweet fuck all. It's the number of other things that you're achieving by taking steps and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, like getting up and going to the gym. Like, going to the gym for you isn't about losing weight. It's like this mental health aspect of, I'm feeling better in myself, more confident, more self-worth.
Yeah, 100%. And I really do think, and I really, really, really do believe this, actually, they are like joined together. Your mental health and your physical health are joined together. But I really didn't appreciate how much looking after your mental health mattered almost more than your physical health, because you can't, the physical health sort of just follows along with the mental health. If you look after your mental health, your physical health just comes with it, I guess. And I didn't feel like I didn't put enough emphasis on that to myself before. So I was always chasing the thinner. I was always chasing the looking different, looking better. Not better, it's ridiculous, but looking different to how I was. And now I'm like, no, I'm me, and I'm happy. And then the fitness and the weight is coming. It's happening, but the mental health thing is massive. Huge.
If someone came to me and they had €50 to invest in, or let's say, for example, the price of the Mulligainz method now is €149. If someone came to me with only €149 in their bank account, was like, Oisin, I'll give this to you to join your weight loss program, or I'll give this to a therapist to try and have that. I have to choose between one or the other. I can't do that. I'd like a therapist straight away. Just go to them. That's the best option. That's going to give you the most bang for your buck. You're going to work out a lot more than just what your scale number is, or work on your overall health and fitness. And likely when you're feeling better with that aspect, you're going to automatically start losing weight off the back of it. Most likely anyways, if you have some sort of an understanding surrounding nutrition. The physical aspect, yes, is important, and that can benefit the mental health side of things. But I think if you're stuck between one or the other, or that you haven't tried therapy or anything like that, I'd always push people that way. And not a lot of people, well, maybe some people know that, because again, the following has come up a shit ton recently again, is that's where a lot of my journey changed too, was going to therapy all the time and trying to go on a weekly basis. And I haven't been in a little while, but I need to get back to it too. But that just keeps me on track. It's like how people describe it, and I think this is a perfect way to describe it, how my therapist described it. It's like Sunday, like mass every single Sunday that you used to go to, or we used to go to as a kid. At mass, and going to mass was a thing, and checking in with yourself and going to just be a little bit more mindful. That's exactly what the Sunday is for me. Is like, okay, that's my therapy session, and every single week. I just make it that milestone. If I'm having a shit week, I make it that milestone because that's the milestone I have to make it to make it to next week. And that's the only thing I used to look at was like, okay, make it to Sunday. I make it to Sunday. Let's make it to next Sunday, and I'll speak again. And then even at that, when I'm feeling good, it's like I make it to Sunday. I can tell this guy about how good my week has been, and then continue on and tell him how great my week has been again. So it doesn't matter what way I was feeling. That was just a good checkpoint to check back in with myself.
I have got to admit, I didn't. It was only after I joined the method that I decided that I would give therapy a try. And I tried a few therapists, and I was like, nah, they are not for me. They're too. They've got that voice, that therapist voice. Like, that's not a
cunty voice.
Don't bring me that voice. And I've now worked with a lady who is incredible, and she just. I can't even explain. I didn't realize I would feel like this, but going to therapy when you actually feel okay is a good time to go to therapy. Like, obviously you go in, if you're fighting loads of little fires, I understand why being in therapy would be good for you then, but go in and just being able to like look at yourself without having to fix a load of shit is also really good. It's just really that has been as well, that investment that I'm making in myself is incredible. I don't know, I've lost the words. It's really, really good. But I wouldn't have done that if I wasn't in the method.
For sure. Sick. Right. This is the most informal ending to a podcast ever. I don't have a fucking ending. Everyone should fuck off and enjoy their day. And thank you, Gillian, as per usual, if you want to say goodbye to everyone. And we leave it at that.
Yeah, see you later, guys.
See you later. Thanks a million.
No worries.
The stress is over.